Hello, everyone, and welcome to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color.
Are you trying to mute me? No, it's just real loud, and I can't.
I sold Amazon, but it was $25.
Listening to listen, not listening to respond.
Yes. Oh, thank you for that. What were you doing? What did it look like for you to essentially, conform or to essentially do something that you thought you were supposed to be doing, as opposed to who you really are and what you really wanted to do or should have done?
So, a lot of photographers, when they have the tenure and they've learned their camera and they've kind of found their creative work, they look back and they kind of laugh at their old work. They're almost embarrassed. Like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah.
For a while, and I did this because once I felt this disconnect and this, like, why don't I love photography anymore? I've literally had a camera from as long as I can remember. Right. Why don't I love this anymore? I started going back and I looked at my old work, trying to figure out what happened. Where did I lose this connection? When I looked back at my old work, yes, it was oversaturated. Yes, it was a little cheesy. Yes, it was all these things. But you know what I noticed? I was bold in my creativity. I was bold in stepping outside of the rules and just shooting what I saw and what I felt and what felt right to me. And I think I'm also a people pleaser, and I've learned that over the years, that I think I got so intimidated with what I saw the masses doing and felt like that obviously is what people wanted to see. I started doing that. And I can put it this way. I was a senior photographer. I actually kind of jumped into doing a few seniors, and a few companies way back when asked me to beta test and to do blog work, like actions, and do blog work for some of their forums and stuff. So I just with the seniors because I thought that's what people wanted of me, right? And what I noticed real quickly is I was taking a senior and I was having her wear a perfect outfit, and I was putting her in a perfect location with the perfect makeup and the perfect light. And I was taking this technically perfect portrait.
It sounds perfect.
It sounds perfect, but I don't see the world in a perfect light. I see the world in this gritty. I see, again, that's my human connection. I see maybe heartache and pain, and we all have a story. And even at 18, 19 years old, we have a story. But you know what? Even beyond that, even as 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds, I want them to be able to look back at this 18-year-old portrait and it to not be so perfect that they forget the story they started and what got to write them. Does that make sense? So it took me having to really to own kind of my own junk and to go, where is this disconnect? I had to put in the work. Why am I not connecting with what the industry at the time was saying what photography work should look like? And it didn't feel right to me. So I had to kind of break down and go, okay, where did I conform all of a sudden? And where is that not setting well with me? And, just the other day, someone asked if I used a reflector. I don't, because I don't want perfect light. I feel like we all have in, the shadows, we have that light and that dark, and that's the perfect epitome of what life is. There's going to be the light and there's going to be the dark, and you're never going to appreciate the light if you don't understand and see and embrace your dark. So I don't try to take a reflector. Whoa, the light is really wonky here because we have like heavy clouds and stuff. So I keep like.
As you're talking about the light and the dark.
Here I am. So yeah, I embrace the raw and the gritty. I don't want my seniors to think of their portraits as a day. That's not what I'm not taking their pictures for a day. I'm taking their pictures for them to look back. And sometimes when you and I've said this before, when you hear a song or you smell a smell and immediately it takes you back to a place in time that you didn't even remember you remembered until you heard that. Yeah. I want my seniors to look back at their portraits and to be like immediately reminded of Friday Night Lights or the songs they used to play in their room or the feeling they had, walking into the kitchen in the morning, whatever. I want them to be hit with an emotion.
I want to get into the mission piece because I have a sense that the mission for you guys is really important.
It is. It is. So I'm going to kind of weave in. I'm basically continuing our story through this.
Keep going. Keep going.
And so when we decided that we wanted to, work with kids, we decided we wanted to get into the kids fashion industry. And the reason why I did that was because I knew that I wanted to do something a little bit more creative with kids. Like I didn't want to just take them out to a field, let them run around and play. Like that wasn't really my style. And so I was looking for an area where I could kind of be a little bit more creative, right? So I thought, oh, well, maybe the kids fashion industry. So we did that. We started doing like headshots for child models, child actors, things of that nature, started getting into like editorial, and other things. And when we got there, we realized a couple of things. Number one, it wasn't very diverse at the time. And this is around 2013, 2014. So the industry wasn't very diverse. When you look at a lot of the kids fashion magazines at the time, there wasn't a lot. The other thing was that we would have kids that would have naturally curly hair, and their parents would come to get their headshots, and they would come and they would have their hair straightened because the parents thought that's what they needed to do to get their kids to be acceptable in the industry, right? And I was like, wow, that's really sad. Like we don't have kids, but it's like, that's really sad when you think about it. Like we are teaching these kids at an early age that
you have to look a certain way, and it's not what you look like.
Yeah, and like the hair that naturally goes out of their head is not acceptable, right? And so we were like, gosh, that's really sad. So what, we decided to do, we were like, what if we just do our own, like just do a test shoot, do a couple of personal projects that, showcase kids with this natural, beautiful natural hair, big natural afros, and they're like looking really, fashionable. Right.
Yeah.
And so we did that. So we had never, the crazy thing was at the time, we had never even been to New York before. I don't even know why we chose New York. But this was like our first trip to New York. We went to New York. We had, I think I kind of met knew of like 3 models through, the industry. And so we connected with them. And we had these 3 little girls, like 4 or 5 years old, in the middle of Times Square. I don't even know why I chose Times Square. I was like, we had never even been before. And at the time,
you went big. You went big. So we were right, like, okay,
out of the gate. Go to Times Square, right?
Right.
We're in Times Square.
We're in Times Square, and like,
and everybody.
Oh my gosh.
So like I'm automatically thinking as a guy, like, I guess I'm gonna have to be the one to hold crowds.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of impossible,
but it was so when I say it was insane, it was insane. But we got some decent shots. And we were, at the time, we were kind of new on social media and everything else. Came back. I think I posted one of the pictures. We were still starting out on Instagram. Posted the pictures before we left. And next thing you know, people started sharing it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting, right? Like we had never even gotten like people to share our work before, right? So it's like, oh, wow, this is interesting. So, from that's when we started to do a few more personal projects and, just kind of pulling from our childhood, our own experiences, and kind of putting it into our work. And these were just completely personal projects. These were nothing that people were paying us for. It was just work that we wanted to do and we wanted to put out there. And that is definitely that. I would say that's the beginning of our story in terms of where we are now. That when we went from probably about 2,000 followers on Instagram to about 20,000 in a month from one personal shoot, right, that we did. And so from there, we just decided that, we wanted to make it our mission to showcase, I would say, Black kid excellence and showcase, Black kids in a positive light. We felt like in the media, there had been too much in terms of, just negative imagery around Black youth, whether it's, Black teen males in prison or, other things. Like it was just, it wasn't anything positive. So we wanted to kind of showcase a different side of that. And so, we just really made it our mission to, I would say, just showcase Black kid excellence.
And I love, so here, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going to make a leap here.
Yes.
I love the core, like that core message of that mission, and you're doing it with Black children, right? But the core of that message is there's beauty in who you are.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Not like
sure.
you used the hair as the example where they would come in and get it straightened. And then that's not your hair. That's altered.
Yes, exactly.
That's like altered hair.
It's the beauty of who you are. It's the beauty of our culture as well. Like we are oftentimes incorporating, culture. A lot of times, our youth, they're not really they're just thinking about trends and whatever is trendy right now, right? But, we will, for our book Glory, we went in and we went to Kenya. We incorporated the Maasai culture, right? And we incorporated, we kind of took inspiration from the Maasai culture and made it something that was modern that kids could relate to, because we felt like, why do our kids kind of leave that? And how can I say it? They basically.
I feel like with our youth, like culture has slowly been kind of dying out.
Exactly.
So we just wanted to bring that back in.
Yes, and so basically, I wanted them to be able to pay homage to the past and be able to figure out ways to incorporate it into the here and now. And so that's really what we're doing. We're taking these ancestral hairstyles or fabrics or clothing and figuring out ways to make it relatable to kids today. So that
there's a sense of education there. There's a sense of heritage there. There's unity underneath all of that for culture,
a sense of pride, right? That we're kind of passing on to them, so that they can, in turn, eventually one day pass it on to their kids, right?
Just came off virtual imaging. I taught a 3-day CPP course again. I shared this with them. I'll share this with my Texas school students. And almost anytime I even do a 1-hour webinar, I like to close with this. And I encourage all of my students, photographers I mentor or help or work with or have a relationship with, is to be a C+ student. And I don't mean that in the terms of A, B, C, or D.
Okay.
The C, it's not, don't think of that as a numerical grade, but the C is every day we have a choice, and we can take a positive choice or a negative choice. And so I compiled a list of 10 choices that we can probably make every day. And if we're a C+ student, we will choose the positive. And so C+ students choose to create rather than complain. I think anytime there's a problem, a real leader, a real professional will create a solution for that instead of just complain about it. C+ students are clear and not confused. Like I said, I'm preaching to myself. This is something I really need to, to put in more into practice coming in the next year. C+ students contribute more than they consume. You asked me at the top of the show, why do you want to do this? I'm like, because someone did it to me. I consumed a lot. I'm ready to contribute as much as I can to help others. And I hope that they take that and contribute, and they take that and contribute. And so we got a photography pyramid scheme that's blowing up the world, right? I think a C+ student is compassionate and not condescending. They are content and not comparative. Comparisons comparisons will either make you feel better than someone else or worse than someone else. There's no middle ground. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, you never get to the point where you're like, you know what? We're the same. We're the exact same.
That's
you don't do that.
Only clone troopers in Star Wars were that way.
Right.
Only the
You had to get a Star Wars reference in. I'm not surprised.
It's like we're the same person. But so I don't think it's being comparative, but I think it's okay to be curious and not complacent. What if I raised my prices? What if I went to Texas school? What if I entered image competition? A C+ student is courageous and not cowardice. They're going to make those hard decisions to grow. I used to, the quote just escaped me, but it's, you'll never exceed your potential by not making a hard decision. Something, it's escaped my brain, but hard decisions reveal your full potential. I think it's something like that.
Oh, well, that's a good one. And people can Google these things.
They can Google this. Yes. A C plus student is confident and not conceited.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that not in an arrogant way, but you're convinced and you're going to go forth on what you've set forth as a goal and the tools and the knowledge you have at the time to be the best you can be with all you have, information you have at the time. I think that's confidence.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to conquer and not concede. And I don't mean that as I want to rule the state or the city. I think it means that if you have a goal or a plan for you, you do whatever you can as long as it's ethical, moral, and legal to do that. You don't stab your friends in your back. You don't do anything illegal. But if it's moral, ethically, and legally to do, then I don't think there's anything that should stop you from achieving your goals for yourself personally.
As opposed to conceding or giving up.
Yes, correct.
Right.
And finally, I think a C plus student makes their decisions on their convictions and not the convenience of the moment. And that's the hard one. That's the trick.
Wow.
And that goes back to when we talked about if you have that umbrella for this is what our business culture is going to be, and an opportunity comes that doesn't fit with that, everyone knows this just doesn't feel right. And I really need the money now, or I really need this job, and you don't see it at the time, but you reap what you sow, and down the line that comes into being sometimes.
I'm impressed by what you just did there. I didn't realize that they were all going to be C words until about a third of the way in. And I was like, he's going to go C words every time.
Every time. And all of those, if you do a C plus and you take all those right choices, you've built yourself character.
Oh man.
And that's what people want. They want integrity and trust before they want your talent. Your talent might get them in the door. Your character and your integrity is what's going to keep them in the door. And it's going to keep them as a lifelong client and a lifelong relationship or a friend or a mentor or whatever that situation may be. That's what's going to keep them. Talent, because my pastor said this a few years ago, and it kind of brought me to the core. When you kind of think you're doing some good things and you think you're kind of a hot shot and you're
don't know what you're talking about.
You're winning some awards, you're getting some recognition, you got some clients, you think you're pretty good. Yeah. And he said, talent will take you where character cannot sustain you. And you're like, And he gave an example of Lance Armstrong and Tiger Woods and Jim Baker. And the list goes on. And we probably know people in our community or maybe even this industry that have done that. But talent gets you so far and it can get you to the top. But if you don't have all those other traits, the fall is pretty mighty and pretty hard. And so
well,
that's
had some
my
moments
goal.
Like that in my own life too.
Yes. And so that's something I'll need to be more intentional on and have chosen to be more intentional on moving forward. And not just for photography, but with my marriage and my parenting and my friendships. And I'm sure there's days that I'm not going to do the best. And there's days that I'm going to knock it out of the park. And I choose to remember the good days.
C plus. I like it. I like the C plus. What do you call it? Is it the C plus?
C plus student.
The word that comes to my mind when I try to encapsulate what we're discussing here is vulnerability, right? That's what comes to my mind. And in order to be willing maybe to be in that position where they can share with you like what they love about themselves or what they don't love about themselves, all the stuff that you typically don't get into without being intentional, requires kind of is there a confidence there? Because that's a lot of times what we lack as human beings. We lack confidence. And I'm finding out like women photographers in particular trying to empower other women through their imagery and their experience, right?
Yeah.
It seems to me that to be on that end, your end, there's a confidence there that you have or that you've developed. Am I right about that? Like, do you look at yourself or consider yourself a confident person now? And maybe you weren't before but you are now, or have you always been that way? Talk to me about that a little bit. A little personal, maybe.
No,
I'm asking
I
you to
think,
go out there a little bit.
No, I think you asked very insightful questions. So actually, I think the reason that portraiture is such a passion project of mine is because it's something that I've not been confident about, not something that I've been confident in, not a place that I have been comfortable in. I don't like being photographed. I'm highly uncomfortable being photographed.
Is that right?
I hate being photographed.
Is that right? Okay.
I hate it.
All right.
I hate it.
Okay.
If I get in front of a photographer's camera, it's because I truly admire their work and I have a lot of trust in them. And that's rare. And I don't mean that like I have such high standards. I just mean I, like a lot of women, have body image issues. I have, we all have scars that people can't see. We've all got issues people can't see.
Sure.
We go into this a little bit in my tutorial, and I struggled a little bit because I'm such an intensely private person. All of my social media is work related, and I'm really comfortable with that. And I'm a bit more personal with my clients, but I like to keep things very work related. But I do think understanding maybe why I'm so passionate about portraits is a good thing. So when I was younger, like a lot of women, I struggled greatly with eating disorders, and that was about 10 or 12 years of my life. And in coming out of that, coming out of being severely malnourished, when I gained weight very quickly, and then it kind of went up and down, I remember taking pictures with a photographer, like senior pictures or something. And I just remember being berated in front of the camera.
For real?
Yeah. Like I remember my nose being picked on. I remember my weight being picked on. And he didn't know. I mean, he didn't know that I had been, 80 pounds lighter like a year before that.
Right.
I mean, he didn't know. But I remember just feeling a lot of shame in that moment, just a lot of shame. And there were other moments like that, in the years after that. And, without getting into any of the personal stuff, it just became a place where I was not comfortable. I did not want to be photographed. Being photographed became something that validated the worst parts of me, the most insecure parts of me. I didn't like it. So when I am photographing women, I understand to the bottom of my soul that fear of stepping in front of someone's lens and having the worst parts of you validated. I understand that. Doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter what other people think you look like. If the camera's turned around or the pictures are turned around and you were so excited and you got all ready and you are so ready to be happy and you are just disappointed, that's soul crushing. Because it's not just a picture. It's this representation of you as a woman, as a wife, as a mom, whatever. It's more than just a picture. And I understand that. And I think because I take it so seriously, we not only try to create this amazing experience. I'm insanely selective with my hair and makeup artists because they're such a part of the experience. It's not the talent that they bring. It's the environment that they create. It's the way that they speak to the clients. It's the way that they make the clients feel. It's how they affirm them. My assistant is so wonderful. I mean, she just lifts these clients up. We know that that's an uncomfortable place to stand for the first 10 minutes of being down here. We know that. My clients leave saying, oh my God, this was so fun. Oh my God, I had no idea. Can we do this again? Can I come back tomorrow? Like we have clients who do come back, we make this a really fun place to be. And that's before they ever see their pictures. And that's because I have stood on the other side of that lens. And
well, you're able to empathize, like real empathy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That really strikes me, especially like you said, you say the first 10 minutes. I bet that the very beginning in particular is a sensitive time, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I learned really early on in portraits was I was having clients come back looking at their pictures and saying, oh, you must have photoshopped it. Oh, and they were always attributing their beauty to Photoshop. And I remember being really crushed about that and thinking it just negates the whole purpose of this. If you're going to say that the only reason your portraits are beautiful is Photoshop. Right. So now I make a point of constantly turning my camera around so that clients can see their pictures. And I want them to see how absolutely beautiful they are before I ever retouch a picture. And now when we cull their images, they are looking through unretouched pictures. So they see all of their images before they're ever retouched.
That's how you do that. I was going to ask that then.
Yeah.
Almost from a practical standpoint, because in my experience as well, it's nice when you can do that, right? Just from a time standpoint behind the scenes, because that takes a lot of time.
It does. Well, when I started, going from commercial and fashion work to portraiture was a huge change. And I tried several different ways of shoots and reveals and just trying different methods to see what worked for me, which is I think what everyone does when they're starting out a business. And I tried the way of retouching 20 to 30 pictures, matting them, printing them, having the clients come back a week later. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of money. And if they take all the pictures, that's one thing. But what if they don't? Then you're literally throwing away all that time. And it just, you can't, especially when you get to a certain point with, a volume of clients. So now immediately after the shoot, we cull through, I cull it down from like maybe 800 or 900 pictures to 200. They go through those with me. They select their images. Those are the only ones that are edited.
They go through the 200. They go through the 200.
They go through the 200.
Just making that clear, not just for everybody else, but also for myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They would be here like for 3 weeks. So we had to go through 800 pictures. Right.
Okay. So that's an interesting process. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I also, I like it, but I'm the efficiency guy. I like things to be efficient, and I don't mind doing certain things on spec, but it was always difficult for me when I consult with people or talk to people about their business, and they're like, well, I like to show them 70 or 80 images. But the problem is it's taking me, 12 hours to get ready for that because I'm retouching every one of them.
Oh no.
I'm like, please don't do that.
No. Well, I mean, I think in all fairness, you do have to get to a place where you are comfortable with your lighting and everything to show unretouched pictures. So I understand if someone maybe doesn't feel like they're there yet, but I also think you have to remember clients are just not as particular as we are. They're not looking at the same things that we are. And when you say to them, these are unretouched, they understand to some extent what that means.
And really now more than ever, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, and when you do the reveal right after the shoot, I mean, the other really nice thing is there is this sense of camaraderie. There is this level of comfort that is there because they have just spent the whole day with you. You've been together, you've been shooting. I feel like when the client left and came back, a week later, even when the images were then retouched, I feel like they went away and their nerves rose up. Like they started to wonder, they started to guess, they started to get tense about what they would see when they came back. And they're just so much more relaxed when we do it right after. And
that
then
makes sense.
Yeah. And then when they get their images after that, they're fully retouched and it's the ones that they selected. And it's just a beautiful, unveiling at that point.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this conversation presented by White House Custom Color on YouTube. Be sure to check out our other content and click that subscribe button right there. Right. Right there. It's there somewhere.